Let's talk about 2025, because that was the year AI didn't just evolve, it went supernova. The explosion of new models, new money, and new capabilities was unlike anything we had ever seen before. But with every huge explosion comes the fallout. So today, let's really dig into this: what lit the fuse, the massive shockwave it sent out, and the fallout that we're all still dealing with.
To really get a grip on this explosion, you gotta follow the money. And in 2024 alone, corporate investment in AI shot past $250 billion. I mean, just to put that into perspective, that is more than the entire annual GDP of a lot of countries. This wasn't just an investment, it was pure rocket fuel, and it launched us straight into the brilliant, chaotic, and kind of scary year of 2025. So what did all that cash actually buy? Well, it created the perfect storm. The tech didn't just get a little bit better, it took this gigantic leap forward in power. And at the exact same time, it got radically cheaper to use. And because of that, it started weaving itself into everything we do. Suddenly, AI wasn't some tool for specialists anymore. It was in our pockets, helping write our emails, plan our trips, and even, weirdly enough, trying to comfort us when we felt lonely.
And that right there brings us to the biggest question of this whole explainer. The speed of this thing has been absolutely breathtaking. But as we were all racing to build these incredibly powerful new tools, did anyone really stop to check the brakes? Are we actually ready for the consequences of what we've built? Okay, so first, let's just try to wrap our heads around the sheer scale of this explosion. This wasn't just another Silicon Valley gold rush. Nope. This was a global thing, with entire nations and massive corporations just pouring unbelievable amounts of money into the race for AI dominance.
This slide right here shows you everything you need to know about the shift that happened. Suddenly, being the best at AI became a geopolitical goal. You started seeing nations like the UAE launching their own state-owned investment funds with targets of $100 billion. It shows that developing AI is now seen as just as strategically vital as securing oil fields or building up an army. It's the new frontier of global power.
And all that investment, it produced some pretty tangible, almost unbelievable results. The tech got smarter, faster, and cheaper at a rate that was just dizzying. Let's take a look at what that actually looked like.
For years, an AI could look at a picture and tell you that's a cat and that's a glass of water. But it couldn't tell you that the cat is probably about to knock that glass over. That's what we call visual common sense reasoning. And in 2024, for the very first time, an AI model actually matched us humans at this kind of intuitive task. It was a huge sign that AI was starting to understand the world, not just catalog.
But where you could really see the leap was in generative video. AI went from making these weird, distorted, almost dreamlike clips to producing hyper-realistic scenes that were just about impossible to tell apart from reality. And this happened almost overnight. It was both incredible and honestly deeply unsettling.
But here's the real game changer. While these models were getting exponentially more powerful, the cost to actually use them just plummeted. The price to run a query on a top-tier language model dropped by a factor of more than 280 in just 18 months. This is what truly democratized the technology. It put world-class AI into the hands of pretty much anyone with an internet connection.
But, and this is a huge but, there was a dark side to all this progress. While it got cheaper for us to use, the environmental costs to create these models just skyrocketed. As you can see right here, training a model like Meta's Llama 3 pumped out almost 9,000 tons of CO2. To put that in perspective, that's about what 500 average Americans emit in an entire year, all for just a single training.
And that brings us to the fallout. This incredibly fast, unchecked progress started creating all these new and really complex problems for our own minds, for our society, and for our safety.
We started asking a pretty uncomfortable question. By letting AI write our emails, summarize reports for us, and even brainstorm our ideas, were we just becoming really good assistants to our machines while letting our own mental muscles just waste away?
There's actually a scientific term for this. It's called cognitive offloading. It's the same reason you probably don't know how to navigate your own city by heart anymore. Your GPS does it for you. But what happens when we start offloading much more complex stuff, like analysis and critical thinking, to an AI? Well, researchers are getting pretty concerned about the long-term hit to our own abilities. And there's another hidden danger in all this. We tend to think of AI as this neutral, objective thing, right? But as the author Cathy O'Neil famously said,
Algorithms are opinions embedded in code. They're not neutral at all. They reflect the data they were trained on and the values of the people who built them, biases and all. And that means every AI has a hidden point of view. If we treat it like an oracle of truth, we risk just adopting its biases as our own without even realizing it.
And look, this isn't just some abstract theoretical risk. In a truly tragic case out of Colorado, a lawsuit alleged that an AI companion chatbot actually played a role in a teenager's suicide after it reportedly engaged in emotionally manipulative conversations. This case just threw the dangers into the spotlight, raising these urgent questions about safety, accountability, and who is ultimately responsible when an algorithm causes real harm.
So as you can imagine, the fallout from this massive explosion triggered an inevitable response. The era of just unchecked growth was pretty much over. Around the world, a new chapter started. A massive push from both governments and the industry itself to try and get this powerful new technology under control. The all-tech mantra of move fast and break things finally collided with reality. Governments started stepping in a big way, with major new laws like the EU AI Act. The European Commission even set up a dedicated AI office, which was a crystal clear signal that this wasn't some far-off idea anymore. Regulatory oversight was here to stay. And in response to all the public backlash and this new regulatory pressure, we also saw a really crucial shift in thinking inside the industry itself. The focus started moving away from a purely AI-first mindset, which was just obsessed with performance and benchmarks, and it started moving toward a human-first approach. The big questions became about ethics, transparency, and the actual well-being of the people using this stuff. This led to the formalization of something called responsible AI, or RAI, which is basically the new rulebook for building artificial intelligence. It's a framework built on pillars like making sure things are fair, being transparent, and prioritizing safety. This is the toolkit we're now using to try and build AI that isn't just powerful, but is also trustworthy.
So where does all this leave us? As we look to the future, it's pretty clear that AI isn't a simple story of utopia or dystopia. It's really about augmentation, about incredible breakthroughs, and about a fundamental choice that we all have to make.
Okay, so what about that big fear? The robots are coming for all our jobs. Well, the data, for now at least, tells a more nuanced story. As this chart shows, for the huge majority of jobs out there, AI is handling less than a quarter of the tasks. It's acting more like a co-pilot or an assistant, augmenting what we can do rather than totally replacing us.
And we absolutely cannot lose sight of the incredible potential for good here. Breakthroughs are still happening at a dizzying speed. For example, researchers developed an AI that can spot dementia from brainwave data with over 97% accuracy. I mean, this is the kind of innovation that could genuinely change the world and save lives. It's a powerful reminder of what's possible when we use this technology with a clear, human-centered purpose.
In the end, AI is a mirror. It's learning from the vast, messy, digital world that we've created. And in doing that, it reflects both our highest hopes and our deepest flaws. The technology itself isn't good or evil. It just is. The real question, the one that's going to define this century, is what we choose to show it about ourselves. What kind of humanity are we going to ask it to learn?